to another episode. The most interesting thing happening today is the election in Moldova. We have elections at the edges of the empire. You could say generally that this is an event happening at the edge of empire without specifying which empire. So, on the one hand, this is the frontier of the American empire, even though actually it has extended a bit farther east with military installations all across Ukraine and a political regime closely aligned to Washington. But on the other hand, there is Transnistria, so there is the self-styled Moldovan Ukrainian Republic. So that hasn't been conquered yet by the American Empire, so it is still part of the Russian Empire to some extent. So yeah, you could say that Moldova is also at the edge of the Russian Empire. If you take the Russian world at its whole, basically Moldova would be the western edge of the Russian world. That's why also Russia recognizes a distinct Moldavian nationality, distinct from the Romanian one. It's not because it's actually distinct, it's just a political construct to make it compatible with the Russian world, homeland of all the peoples without any other homeland. So to make the Moldovans like the Tatars, Bashkirs, Ingush, all of the other peoples who used to be part of the Russian Empire and subsequently of the Soviet Union. But why are these elections important? Well, just like the elections in Romania this fall, I think their importance lies in the fact that the next 4 years will basically determine one direction. In this case, probably it will be the pro-American one. And that direction, given that there are no more elections in the subsequent years, will lead to some actions which are not politically suitable now. So probably after Maya Sandu gets re-elected, after she gets her position confirmed, most probably there will be an intervention, a military intervention against Transnistria. For a number of reasons. The most important one being the fact that Russia needs to be distracted on other fronts. The conventional war in eastern Ukraine is not actually going in the Ukrainian direction or in the American direction. It hasn't been going that way for quite some time now. You could argue that maybe from the beginning it hasn't gone the American way, but the strategy that the Americans have regarding Russia is not to actually beat it militarily in a head-to-head confrontation. It is to somehow distract it on various fronts and to somehow hope for the best. Hope for some sort of internal turmoil, insurrection, like you had the Prigozhin uprising a couple of years ago. It's this is why the Ostrovian card is not so important militarily. There's only a small Russian contingent there, and of course the population there is overwhelmingly pro-Russian. But yeah, it would be more of a check move towards Russia, because once Moldova or the American contingents in Moldova attack Transnistria, from that point onwards Russia will have to intervene somehow. It will have to defend its population there. It has quite a lot of citizens, not only that the population of Transnistria is generally Russian-speaking and Russian-leaning, but a majority of them are Russian citizens as well. And Russia will have to do something to somehow defend the Transnistrians. And this will put it on a war footing with Moldova to some extent. So from that point onwards, it will be arguable by the Americans that Russia is furthering its conflict, that it is attacking another sovereign state after having attacked Ukraine. It is now attacking Moldova. So I think that this is the scenario that they will be going for. Um, right now, the citizens of Moldova go to the polls to elect Maya Sandu on a pro-EU platform. On the same day, they're having this referendum regarding EU accession. But of course, well, for example, Romania did not have a EU referendum, EU accession referendum. Such a move is not exactly necessary. The reason why they put the referendum on the same day with presidential election is to boost support for the pro-EU candidate, that is Maya Sandu, and so on. So to somehow make this association in the minds of people, in the minds of the electorate, that Maya Sandu is the candidate that will bring them into the European Union, to make this positive association. And because if it were a referendum about war against the Russian Federation, of course people would turn up to vote against Maya Sandu. But this is not what the referendum question is. However, the event that will follow the election will not be EU integration. EU has kind of exhausted its expansion potential. There's no room for EU expansion eastwards, not in Serbia, not in probably not in the Western Balkans, although there are some eager states to join, like you have Montenegro, Macedonia to some extent. There are some pro-EU majorities there, but like towards Ukraine and the Republic of Moldova, the EU has kind of reached its limits, and because both of them have conflicts on their territory, okay, the Moldovan conflict is frozen, but nevertheless. And the EU in itself is no longer such an attractive project, given that it is in recession. It is becoming more and more authoritarian. Countries that have joined, such as Slovakia or Hungary, um, realize that they're kind of trapped, and now they're under sanctions. So you join the European Union, the cradle of democracy, to be under sanctions from the European Union, and for them to wage economic and political war against you. So yeah, the European Union doesn't make for such a strong proposal as it once did, and this is why Moldova will probably not join the European Union, not anytime soon, but never. It will never join the European Union because the European Union will probably not exist 10 years from now. However, the other event is way more probable, the war against the Russian Federation, because just like the Americans tried with Georgia to reignite the conflict in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, it will surely try to do the same with Transnistria, to try to distract the Russians away from the conflict, to make them commit some serious blunders, because Russia doesn't have direct land access or sea access to Transnistria. Probably the Americans are putting their bets on the fact that Russia will make some sort of move that will be considered aggressive internationally. Maybe they will, I don't know, put some atrocities on their behalf. Some, I don't know, some bombardments on Chisinau or something like this, and then to show to the entire world what a dangerous country Russia is, how it is attacking country after country. It will not stop in Ukraine. It will somehow feed into this narrative that if we don't stop it in Ukraine, then we will have to stop it at on our own territory. So and Moldova will also make into a very nice hook for Romania, a very nice bait, because Moldova on its own cannot actually withstand the Russian Federation, and Moldova is not a NATO member, so Article 5 would not be invoked in the defense of Moldova. However, if a NATO country got drawn into this conflict, like say Romania, if somehow Romania, I don't know, got involved in Moldova, sent troops to Moldova to defend the regime and Chisinau, you might envisage some sort of confrontation between Romania and Russia. taking place over Moldova. And that would be a good continuation for the conflict from the point of view of the Americans, because in Ukraine the conflict will at some point die down, for the simple fact that the Ukrainian manpower is becoming exhausted right now. I don't mean like like psychologically exhausted. I mean like physically exhausted. Like there will be no more men left. So right now the Zelensky regime has lowered the draft threshold to 18. They will now be recruiting basically teenagers to fight. And this will not go on forever. This cannot go on indefinitely. At some point, the Kiev regime will collapse, and in order to keep the conflict going, new countries will need to be added on this second Barbarossa front. And my hunch is that it will not be the Nordic countries, so not the Scandinavian, Baltic, Polish front. It will probably be the Romanian front, because it is way easier to convince the Romanians. They are way more captive from an informational point of view, and it is way easier to control public opinion here in favor of a conflict with Russia than it is in let's say countries with more stable and mature democracies. Plus, Finland is very sparsely populated. The Baltic countries are also very sparsely populated. It is hard to envisage that these countries would last long in military confrontation against Russia. Whereas Romania, if enough NATO troops are brought here, which is now the main direction in which things are going, you might envisage such a scenario in which a proxy conflict between the West and Russia could be waged on the territory of Romania. So yeah, this is my take on the Moldovan elections today. Let's hope that I'm way too pessimistic, and see you next time. Thanks for watching.